Will stand and remain standing. The court is now in session. Please be seated.
Open the court, please.
On the occasion of this joint ceremonial sitting of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia Division 1 and Division 2, we receive announcement of the senior counsel appointed in and for the state of Victoria.
May I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands and waters where we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here. I acknowledge the traditional owners' spiritual and physical connection with this country and that their stewardship of this land has been ongoing for tens of thousands of years. I express on behalf of the court my gratitude for the sharing of that country, but I also express my sorrow for the cost of that sharing. As a court, we wish to understand and respect the stories, beliefs and laws of First Nations people, and it is our hope that we will move to a place of equity, justice and reconciliation together. I pay my respect to the elders for the work they do as they continue to lay the bedrock for the next generation of Aboriginal leaders. We as both courts continue to walk with the greatest respect on Aboriginal lands. Well, welcome here today to such a big crowd of people to this celebration and this joint ceremony of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia 1 and the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia 2, or Division 2, to acknowledge the newly appointed Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria for this year. On behalf of the courts, both of them, sitting together, I congratulate each of you on your appointment as Senior Counsel for Victoria. This designation, as you've already heard of, I'm sure twice already today, reflects your expertise, diligence and independence. It also expresses the way in which you're seen by your peers and that you've demonstrated the highest of calibre of ethics and skill as an advocate. I'd also like to particularly congratulate and thank the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Victoria and, of course, the Victorian Bar for the extraordinary work they do to make sure the institution of silk survives and is indeed conducted in such a great way. The fact that all of you have been appointed this year demonstrates the extraordinary work they do to make sure this is a process on merit, very well considered and very well informed. And the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Victoria should be congratulated for the extraordinary work she does in that. The institution of silk has a proud history dating back to the 15th century. Originally, kings or queens' counsel were only allowed to represent the crown, the rationale being that the right of precedence given to them meant all the Crown's litigation was dealt with first. Lucky for us, in civil courts, that is no longer the case, and we are similarly assisted by your expertise in efficient resolution of matters. Whilst the history of becoming Senior Counsel has changed over the years, its significance has never diminished, and the values it embodied remain incredibly important today. Becoming silk is a great privilege. It brings many responsibilities and an obligation to commit yourself to the highest standard of legal practice. It also requires independence. For those here, the origins and necessity of the independent bar and the independent advocate are well known. In his swearing-in speech as Chief Justice in 1952, Sir Owen Dixon characterised it this way: "It is the duty of the barrister to stand between the subject and the Crown, between the rich and the poor, the powerful and the weak, and it is necessary that, while the bar occupies an essential part in the administration of justice, the barrister should be completely independent and work entirely as an individual, drawing upon his or her own resources of learning, ability and intelligence, and owing allegiance to none." Our system of justice is synonymous with and dependent upon the role of the independent advocate, from a duty to the court to ethical and independent conduct and the duty to one's client. Madam President.
May it please the Court. I appear on behalf of the Victorian Bar. I have the honour to present to the Court the following who have been appointed Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria and in the following order of seniority. Mr Gary Heavey, having precedence as the most senior of the newly appointed Senior Counsel.
Is Mr Heavey in court?
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence as the most senior of the Senior Counsel so appointed.
Mr Peter Matthews, having precedence next after Mr Gary Heavey.
Mr Matthews in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr Gary Heavey.
Ms Georgina Connolly, having precedence next after Mr Peter Matthews.
Is Ms Connolly in court?
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Peter Matthews.
Mr Justin Lewis, having precedence next after Ms Georgina Connolly.
Mr Lewis in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Ms Georgina Connolly.
Mr Dougal McWilliams, having precedence next after Mr Justin Lewis.
Mr McWilliams in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Justin Brian Bannatyne Lewis.
Mr Robert O'Neill, having precedence next after Mr Dougal McWilliams.
Mr O'Neill in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr Dougal McWilliams.
Ms Karen Argyropoulos, having precedence next after Mr Robert O'Neill.
Ms Geropoulos in court.
I have the honour to announce that I've been appointed Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr Robert O'Neill.
Ms Kate Beattie, having precedence next after Ms Karen Argyropoulos.
Beattie in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Ms Karen Argyropoulos.
Mr Stephen Rebekoff, having precedence next after Ms Kate Beattie.
Mr Rebekoff in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Ms Kate Beattie.
Mr Samuel Hopper, having precedence next after Mr Stephen Rebekoff.
Mr Hopper in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr Stephen Rebekoff.
Ms Premila Thiagarajan, having precedence next after Mr Samuel Hopper.
Ms Harrington in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr Samuel Hopper.
Mr Andrew Woods, having precedence next after Ms Premila Thiagarajan.
Is Mr Woods in court?
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Ms Premila Thiagarajan.
Mr Michael Stanton, having precedence next after Mr Andrew Woods.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr Andrew Woods.
Mr Neil Hutton, having precedence next after Mr Michael Stanton.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr Michael Stanton.
Mr Christopher Neame, having precedence next after Mr Neil Hutton.
Is Mr Neame in court?
I have the honour to announce that I've been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr Neil Hutton.
Ms Catherine Pearce, having precedence next after Mr Christopher Neame.
Ms Pearce in court.
Mr. Justin Tomlinson, having precedence next after Ms. Catherine Pearce.
Mr. Tomlinson in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Ms. Catherine Maisie Pearce.
Ms. Maureen Norton, having precedence next after Mr. Justin Tomlinson.
Ms. Norton in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr. Justin Tomlinson.
Mr. Andrew Devane, having precedence next after Ms. Maureen Norton.
Is Mr. Devane in court?
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Ms. Marie Norton.
Ms. Meredith Schilling, having precedence next after Mr. Andrew Devane.
Ms. Schilling in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr. Andrew John Devane.
Mr. Andrew Marr, having precedence next after Ms. Meredith Schilling.
Mr. Marr in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Ms. Meredith Schilling.
Mr. Benjamin Jealous, having precedence next after Mr. Andrew Marr.
Is Mr. Jealous in court?
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr. Andrew Marr.
Ms. Catherine Burke, having precedence next after Mr. Benjamin Jealous.
Is Ms. Burke in court? Mr. David Yarrow, having precedence next after Ms. Catherine Burke. Mr. Yarrow in court.
I have the honour to announce that I have been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Ms. Kate Burke.
And Mr. Matthew Hooper, having precedence next after Mr. David Yarrow.
Is Mr. Hooper in court?
I have the honour to announce that I've been appointed as Senior Counsel in and for the State of Victoria, taking precedence next after Mr. David Yarrow.
Thank you, Madam President.
I please the court.
Being an advocate, a member of one's own independent bars is not just wearing a gown or being a member of a club. Signing the bar roll means a great deal more. Whether you're a silk or a junior, your role as an independent advocate is an essential part of making the system of justice fair and equitable. We're also reminded that when one walks into a courtroom and bows to a judge, they're not bowing personally, but rather to the institution and indeed our system of justice. Your independence requires you to act appropriately despite fanciful or perhaps querulous wishes of some litigants or even some instructors. It is that judgment, that independence and that trust that protects our system of justice. Can I actually say today to not just the new silks or the recipients of so much adulation and congratulations, but also to the people who supported them. You are the ones who have, in many occasions, got the new silk through school, through university, through, of course, the trials and tribulations of joining the profession, of going through what was used to be articles or otherwise graduate programs, joining law firms, getting used to the trials and tribulations of timesheets, coming to the bar exam, if some of them did it, otherwise having to come to the bar in the first years of the bar. You've heard all the stories, no doubt, about the fact there's too much work. There's not enough work. It's difficult. I lost and I should have won. I was magnificent, but no one actually realised. Or indeed, the difficulty is getting paid. You've gone through so many years of supporting our new silks. On behalf of everyone, I want to say thank you so very much. The work you do is so incredibly important, and you are, in fact, the champions of today in so many ways. To our new silks, you've heard a lot today, I'm sure, in the last two celebrations and ceremonies, but one of the things I really wanted to stress was the importance of you not just being leaders, but training the new crop of advocates coming through. So often, we know on the bench, those of us who are silks, how important it was to have juniors. It's not just for your own self-importance or importance for your client. It's training young barristers to actually see what it's like in bigger cases, seeing how you go about things and how your opponents go about things, giving them exposure. It's so incredibly important. Can I say, perhaps somewhat controversially, there's no excuse for turning up to court without a junior. You can discount your fees and have a reader. It doesn't matter who it is. Just give those junior barristers a chance, because they will obviously help you. And remember what it was like some years ago when you were a junior barrister. We have the finest bar in the world in Victoria, and I can say that from a national point of view, how great the institution is. It's now your job to make sure it gets even better and well supported. When I got silk, Ken Haynes said to me, and to a number of us, of course, enjoy your silk, celebrate it. Keep celebrating it until you go to Canberra and the silk bows. Now, unfortunately, with the way the timing is, you're probably an alcoholic if I said that. But can I say this? Enjoy it, celebrate it with your family and friends. You deserve it. And make sure you do go to Canberra. Meet your colleagues, your national colleagues, because you'll be amazed how many times you run into them and how important it is. I was only in Adelaide last week and ran into one of my colleagues who's on the South Australian Supreme Court. We were silks together. It's a great institution. You are now part of a really, really important phase in your life. We're so very, very pleased for you and we're very proud of you. Thank you very much. Adjourn the court.
All stand as